Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio Podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada. In episode 13, we speak with Ryan Reynolds, assistant strength coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, on what it takes to train athletes in the NFL.
Well, Ryan, again, thanks for coming on, man. Derek's spoken so highly about you, and so I feel like I almost know you a little bit now, but
Nice.
would love to kind of, talk about your background a little bit. I mean, where you came from, how you got into the field that you're in, and kind of get the discussion going there.
Well, I started off in college, exercise science major at University of Iowa, and I kind of just did an internship there. I did that for the Olympic side for like 4 years, and then I kind of graduated, and then I went to the Iowa football side. They don't have graduate assistants there. They just have full-time interns. So that's what I did for a full year. And from there, I went to Arizona State and did my official GA. I was there for a year and a half on the GA, and then I kind of just, I ended up staying there like 6.5 years. I left for 3 weeks and went to Louisville, but then they hired me right back. So I was at, in Tempe there for 6.5 years, and then I went to UCLA for 4, and then this is my 3rd season here in Kansas City.
So you are the strength coach of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Assistant. I'm an assistant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's the head guy over there?
Barry Rubin.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I was just downstairs with Charlie Weingroff. Charlie's heard of you. Do you know Charlie?
I never met him in person. I followed his blog once or twice, but
did you?
Yeah. Like when you're younger, everyone's got their opinions on stuff. It's his blog. He had a strong opinion on what was right. So
Charlie's got strong opinions. Charlie's someone I've worked with for a while, and I definitely I value his opinion, and he's a pretty smart dude, and he's a good friend of Derek's too. So
nice. Yeah.
It's always this thing when you get really smart guys together in the same room, and they find out that they're more like-minded than they think. It's actually a nice thing to see, but that's the funny thing about the internet and social media now. It's it is very opinionated, and it is. I almost welcome the discussion now. I don't necessarily look at it as anything negative. I mean, I think it's how you deliver, I guess the argument, the rebuttal, whatever you really want to call it. But I think it's really more about how you're delivering it. And if you're turning around and saying something like, oh, no, you're fucking wrong, or that's ridiculous. Like, I can understand how that could get a little bit harsh. But I think it's interesting for people to challenge other people. I think a lot of the problem is that they're just not doing it in the right fashion. Do you agree? Hey, Derek?
I was actually on another podcast this morning, and I was being very careful about how I said
Mr. Big Time.
I'm trying to. It was a guy based out of the UK, Rob Pacey, and so I'm trying to, shine a good light on everything and be very politically correct. But I think as you get older, I think you realize that whatever, like not everybody's going to like you, and you don't have to be right about everything. And maybe you just get a little more easygoing about stuff. And, some people still take stuff really personally, but I think you and I don't. We kind of know, the game now, and we're just like, hey, whatever, we're in our lane. You're in that lane, so I don't know.
You start getting the joke a little bit. Ryan, I obviously, someone asked me today, who are you bringing on your podcast? And I turn around, and obviously, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've never.
Yeah.
You're good looking, dude. Come on, man. I was actually with Ryan this morning, and I was joking around with him because he's pushing. He's got Deadpool press coming up, and he's like, "What are you doing today?" Because he knows I brought Drew Powell on a few days ago, and kind of follows a little bit, or at least he lies to me and says he does. And I was like, I'm bringing on Ryan Reynolds, and he was kind of looking at me like, I'm not going on your podcast. But I was like, no, different one. And it's always a good joke. So I was obviously spreading it out today, to be honest. I mean, everyone's, who are you having on today? I'm like, Ryan Reynolds. And I'm just kind of walking up.
Yeah.
So you got to hold up, bro.
Yeah. I was in LA, and it only became an issue if you call in for a reservation, sometimes it's for Ryan Reynolds. Or when I went and got a haircut one time, I went to the Baxter Finley. It's a pretty famous barbershop there. So you walk in and everyone's like, yeah, and that's not the 6'2" good looking dude. So I changed the person that's going to cut his hair. It's you get the guy in the back, so
whatever. You should just say, wait, how tall are you?
Yeah, I'm only like 5'8", so.
All right. So we're off there. But you know what? I mean, we could throw. I was about to say throw a hat on low.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. What's your spin? With the different coaches and having. I mean, you're going into this isn't high school sports. I mean, you're going into an organization where there's bosses of the boss, and it's what the best thing for these. Institutions, organizations, call it what you want, aren't necessarily always what's going. I mean, a lot of politics are being played. And obviously, you're not going to give away your secrets. I know there's only so much you can stay here. But what's your experience been like? I mean, I think it's okay to be honest and just say, it's been, you got to really play by the rules, or you guys are able to go in there under the head strength coach and you can just kind of run with it.
Yeah, it's always – every situation is different and every school is different. Like everyone likes to say, like if someone's been in the NFL, they say, well, this is how the NFL is. Like, well, there's 32 different NFLs, okay? It depends on the owner, depends on the general manager, depends on the head coach, the culture of the team. So not one NFL is the same as every other one. So, in college is kind of the same way. Is strength conditioning important to you? Is it a critical piece? Is it a competitive advantage for your team? Is that how the coach looks at it? Or is it just something that's got to exist and you check off a box like, yeah, we have a strength coach and we train, so it just kind of depends on that, how much you can really impact, each place you're at. So.
And with the athletes, you guys get them for season, but then in the off season, I mean, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that they're running off to their trainers, or they're running off to work. I mean, you hear about Tom Brady working with his, this TB12 trainer, whatever the guy's name is. It's like that too can also get, I mean, that could become a challenge. I mean, I know in my world, it's much easier because I'm working, as Derek knows, I work a lot with actors. And what am I getting them ready for? I'm getting them ready for the screen. You've got to be able to perform, but there's just less contingent upon physically what they need to do. I mean, you guys, if you're working with a guy and 10 of your players go down because of injury, they're going to start almost kind of looking at you like, all right, well, are these guys prepared for the season? But it's not really all in your guys' hands. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, we only have a short amount of time, when they come back for us. And it's still, even then, it's voluntary. Most guys show up, for off-season program. You might have your big-time guys or guys that get franchise tagged that don't come, but they'll come to the mandatory mini camp 1 week that's mandatory. Everything else is voluntary. So you really have 5 weeks before they start practicing football. And of those 5, you only have 2 where they're not doing any football activity, the first 2 weeks. And then after that, they can kind of do some individual drills for the next 3 weeks. So you're always kind of bound. It's a balancing act. You're trying to get enough training in, So you look at, all right, you really have a 9-week off season, which, 4 of those weeks are basically an in-season mode. So it's like, all right, you look at biology, you look at adaptation, how much can you really accomplish in that time span? It becomes very difficult, to prepare them for the demands of the game. And then they're going to go away for 5 or 6 weeks and show up at training camp, and you get all these guys pulling injuries. Oh, the strength coaches suck. Wow. I mean, we've seen them for 5 weeks. And
I know it's tough.
So.
It's tough. I mean, unfortunately, you guys take the rap, and unfortunately, I mean, Derek and I have talked about it. There's a lot of – listen, they're way more inadequate coaches out there than I think really good coaches. And I'm not even talking about in the professional organizations. I'm talking about who these guys are working with. I mean, I've done some projects with specific athletes, professional athletes, where strength coaches. I'm hearing about professional football players, really high level guys, Pro Bowl guys, who off season are training 6-7 hours a day. They're eating a protein bar in between. They're doing Muay Thai fighting, and you're just like, holy shit. And the guy's complaining to the shoot that his hip's kind of burning a little bit, his Achilles isn't feeling right, his shoulder's a little bit twinged, and you're just saying to yourself, fuck, man, like this is a walking time bomb here. And it's for me, I still don't get it. I mean, here, and I understand there's the players' unions, but I don't understand why there hasn't been something that the owners of these organizations can figure out to where they even incentivize these players. I mean, you're investing tens of millions of dollars into someone who's going to go out, and your season could be contingent upon that one guy. I mean, Tom Brady goes down, and bad example with Tom. I mean, that actually happened once and he was doing well, but you get guys that go down and the number 2 string player isn't at that level. And yet they allow them to go off and train the way that they train,
Mm-hmm.
it just seems very like Neanderthal. It just seems like a very old school way of thinking.
Yeah. Maybe Derek can speak a little more to this. It's driven by money, and they look at it as like, it's a business, we're making money. And maybe they don't view strength conditioning as something that's important or that can, help prevent injury or help, keep guys on the field. I look at it as like, all right, I'm an insurance policy. I'm protecting your investment. You're investing all this money and, physically preparing them for the demands of the game. We can do that. Not everybody sees the world the way we do, So
right.
we're down here looking at it like this, and the owners and the guys with the money are looking at it a different way.
And I get it. It's not, and we're not speaking poorly about the owners. I mean, I understand that. I understand. And I wanted Derek to kind of dive in on this a little bit because I don't want to get you in any trouble, but, it's one of those things where, you're investing in a football player, and we've seen plenty of football players out there that, you watching Bo Jackson's story, you see this 30 for 30, which is pretty spectacular. One of my favorite athletes of all time. But here's a guy that he was a freak, and he was like, well, working out, he's like, why would I want to tire myself out like that? And his thinking was almost right, because a lot of us have gone in such a different direction. Derek, like I'm listening to Rory McIlroy turn around, and he was criticizing, I think it was Nick Faldo, one of the commentators, one of the professional golfers, and he was kind of challenging him a little bit. I might be wrong with Nick's name, might have been Price or someone else, but Rory's saying, if he's questioning my dedication, I'm up 2 hours before my morning around 6 a.m. and I'm back in the gym at 8 p.m. and I'm going, wow, after 18 holes and after, being on the driving range, and I come from a golf background and chipping and putting and spending, 7-8 hours on the course, you're training that much in season. It might be working against you a little bit. So there's also this perception of more is better.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding that balance. And I just wish, and I'm convinced that I think a lot of players would be, and Derek, I'm curious on your perspective here, that guys would be a lot healthier if they were almost following a minimalistic approach, but still approaching it the right way. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that you have these extremes now. You have guys, and maybe some of this is driven, from the union, but there's guys who don't want to do anything. They're like, as soon as I leave this facility, I'm my own person. The team doesn't own me. I can do whatever I want. And almost there's like a bit of a rebellious approach. And then on the other side of that spectrum, you have these guys doing the 6-7 hours and weighing their food and having 4 different therapists converge on them through the week. And so, but there's no middle class, right? There's nobody doing what you're saying. Like, hey, maybe there's a minimalist approach to, hey, let's do a bit of aerobic work. Let's do a little bodybuilding. Let's do a little plyos, couple times a week, keep my body in shape. And then we'll ramp it up for the off-season training and then the training camp. I don't think a lot of people are doing it that way. You get this polar opposites. And I think the part of it too is as soon as you start paying somebody money to play sports, I think it changes their perception of what they should be doing or how much effort they should be putting into the non-sports part, like the being there to play games and practice and all that. And that's the only thing I can put my finger on is they're not doing it out of passion, at least not a lot of them. And I think they just go, okay, well, this is my work day. And obviously people do this in their regular jobs too. Like, this is when I'm paid to work. As soon as I step out of the office, I don't have to do anything for work, right? So I don't know. Maybe that's just, I was talking to a buddy of mine and I was telling him about what Jeremy Johnsey told us about how the airlines that aren't as good have unionized employees and they don't care as much. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, it's the same in, I said, yeah, it's kind of the same in the NFL sometimes, right? And then the unions get in the way. He's like, yeah, it's the same in high school too. The teachers don't work as hard and they're not good physical education people. And so physical literacy is going down. So let's blame the unions, right? And I'm like, oh, we got to be careful there. But
yeah. But then you want to know, I mean, you just reminded me, it's funny because you take this Rocky type approach, Ryan, with an athlete and say it really does work. Like look at James Harrison, for instance. I mean, the guy's big on social media. He's a favorite of people who aren't even fans of the NFL because he's kind of a freak. I mean, you got to admit it. I mean, he's in there doing things, but if you go through his feed, there's a good portion of things that I'm sure you guys can pick apart as a coach. and be like, all right, well, he's pressing. Look how much he's extending from his lumbar, or those glute bridges are completely they're awful, or the sled push. I mean, he's completely extended the entire time. He's going to kill himself. The guy's 40 years old. He's obviously developed a resiliency. I don't know how his body's going to respond at 60, but people are affiliating his work ethic with throwing 80-pound med balls over a what was it, the volleyball net, and they're immediately thinking, well, that's how I have to fucking train. Like, obviously, like, this is, I got to take, and my problem is that I got to battle with people coming in. I had one client this morning who's like, I just don't have it anymore. He hasn't been working with me much. He's working with Chris. I can't mention his name, but he's like, I feel like I just don't have it anymore. I'm like, no, dude, it's not that you don't have it. It's just that you've always affiliated success for when you were rowing at an Ivy League school, or you've always affiliated success with when you've trained till you puked. You've always affiliated success with Rocky running up that hill. And your body's just telling you right now, with all these other variables going on in your life, with stress and travel and your wife having a baby and all this crap, your body right now is telling you it just doesn't want to do this. And he feels depressed about it because he thinks, and I'm like, no, it's nothing to be depressed about. Like, let's just take a step back. Like, let's just come in today. Let's run you out of 3. Let's be successful today. Let's get your mind in the right spot. And we'll adjust it according to the days and what you need on that day. But that's coaching. And I feel like coaching, like, I don't even know if we've ever got there yet. I can't even say it's a lost art. There's guys out there I can tell, like yourself or Derek, definitely, who know how to go in and coach and almost give to that person what they need on that given day. But have we ever even really gotten there with coaching yet? Like, have we gotten to that point where it's been so good all around? The answer, I feel, is no.
No, there's so many, like I'll let Ryan speak to it, but there's so many outliers that people like just glom onto, like James Harrison, and then, oh, Tom Brady does this. And people think that that's the reason for their success, right? But I know Ryan can speak to this about the guys that he deals with, and how there's guys there where you think, oh, that guy must train like a beast in the off season, but he's just a beast. Like, he doesn't necessarily do it. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think the general public, they see these guys and they're like, you have people come up to you like, oh, so-and-so must be a monster in the weight room. Like, oh, not really. He doesn't really do much at all, So he picked his parents well, and a lot of these guys, kind of, you guys were talking earlier, they, like when Derek was talking about, they might get to the NFL on not doing anything at all. They might have not done anything in college, not training-wise. And like, well, I made it to the NFL without training. Like, why do I got to train now? So it's like,
Why not?
Yeah, you get that in the NBA.
What's the difference in speed? What's the difference in speed? Like, do you see that? I know we're jumping around, but when you have a guy go from college to the NFL, does he suddenly start waking up and going, oh, shit, maybe I do have to put some time in here?
You'll see it a little bit, because there's always a change of speed when you go from high school to college, and, it takes you a little bit, and then you go from college to NFL. It's like, all right, you're just taking out the bottom half. You're just getting the cream of the crop. It's like, remember that play? I think Johnny Manziel was a quarterback, and he was trying to scramble away, and he got to the sideline, and then, they got him. He got like 2 yards, and he flipped off the sideline. The sideline, the other team was yelling at him, hey, Johnny, everybody's fast in the NFL. He couldn't get the corner, so
right,
that's what you're dealing with. So and guys think, oh, it'll come as I play. A lot of guys don't attribute that to, hey, I need to train to get better. It'll just come over time as I play. So
I got a question here. It's funny. I want to get your guys' opinion, because you see the level of intensity on certain guys like a James Harrison, or, you see that, Hugh Jackman, I train him getting ready for movies, and they're posting pics of him, literally pulling weight off the floor like he's about to die, and everyone's immediately affiliating success with that. Some of the best athletes I've ever seen, some of the best physiques I've ever seen in my life, natural physiques, the people who have seen the most improvement, I don't want to say the word they're dogging it, but they're getting in and doing the work consistently, but they're not coming any close to 100%. I remember at a young age turning to my head in the gym several times and looking at guys being like, how the hell do they look like that? Like, now, granted, there's anabolics or specific things, but there's something to be said about that also. There's something to be said about Derek, and we go through with specific running drills with you going in. It's not always at 100%. Can you guys elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll let Ryan talk to that, what he sees like in practice, what he sees in training camp and all that. But I think I know when I was working with Charlie Francis, he was talking about the guys that are really good don't have to work hard because they don't have to prove it to anyone. Like we were talking about Wayne Gretzky the other day or the last week, and this idea that if you're so much better than everybody else, you can kind of coast, and it does preserve your career. You don't have to work as hard. You put yourself in less risky situations. And I'm sure Ryan sees that all the time, where you have this guy, like, he's just way better. And so he doesn't have to do as much. He doesn't have to prove it. He doesn't have to, kill himself in training camp and do every rep at 100% because he doesn't need to do that. So what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, you see a lot of that, that was one thing I noticed when I come from college to the practice in NFL. Now the season's longer, guys are older, got more miles on them and stuff. So, and we practice, we're pretty hard practice here in Kansas City, and we run a really hard training camp, Andy Reid does. But you got guys, you look at it like back in college, like, oh man, kids are running all over the field and everything. In the NFL, like you might have a guy, he might be explosive off the ball, rushing the passer, a couple steps, and then it's kind of like, he's back in it. He's not just balls to the wall every rep. You kind of figure it out, and that's, I guess, when they say the game kind of slows down, they know where to pick their spots. You see it more on the veteran guys. Seem to be better idea of that stuff. So
I'm curious. Do you have in your eyes specific guys in the league that are just physical specimens? Who's impressed you the most?
Well, I haven't played every team in the NFL, but everyone. I mean, these guys are the freaks of everything. J.J. Watt's impressive. I can't think of his name. A tackle from the Cowboys. He's an alien. He's basically, his hand is on the ground and he's still upright in the stance, and he's a freak. The big guys are the most impressive to me. As strong, as fast, and as powerful as they are, as big as they are. These guys are pretty fast. And then obviously we got a guy on our team is extremely fast, Tyreek Hill, and some of the things he can do is phenomenal. But J.J. Watt's impressive, big, fast, powerful, strong, kind of combination of it all. And then you see the quarterbacks, their ability to put the ball in certain spaces, like a Drew Brees, or you watch a Tom Brady, or a guy that can just fit it in there. You're like, how did that get in there? So some of that stuff's impressive. The skill part is.
What do you see with Travis Kelce? Because he's kind of this guy who's in between. Like, he's a big dude. Obviously, he can run.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he's got the skill to catch and do these things. And I've seen him hurdle guys, which, speaks to some athleticism. What do you see with him? Like day to day, like what does he have?
I think he was a quarterback at Cincinnati when he first got there, and then they transitioned him into tight end. So I think he was a quarterback in high school too. So he's fairly athletic, so he has that base. So he started from that, and then they kind of progressed and got bigger and try to make him into more of a tight end, catching passes and things like that. Very athletic guy. Trains decently hard in the offseason last year. He trained pretty hard, clean squat bench, did all that stuff, had a good offseason, and he had a pretty good year.
So what's so how's the team going to look for the season? How are you feeling about it with all the guys coming? I mean, I know you still got some time, but
yeah.
Any new acquisitions? Anything going on?
Oh yeah, you always sign free agents. Everything's changing. You get a new quarterback, you get a couple new receivers, you fill some pieces on defense. So, I guess you never know until you get going. Everyone changes in the NFL. So it's just you feel good about it. We got great coaches. We got our personnel department is very good identifying players. We just keep training them, keep them healthy on the field, and we should be all right, I think.
How are these teams nutritionally now? Like, how much focus are they putting into that? Nutrition supplementation. I know there's a company I work with called Garden of Life, and we've been getting it a lot with I think some NFL teams, a lot of Major League Baseball teams. We launched a sport line that's NSF certified, so I know it's a much more cleaner product. So, but is it something where the organizations are kind of like, oh, don't worry about it? Is that handled more by you guys, or is it handled more by the team nutritionists, if the team even has one? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, each team is different. We only provide Gatorade products, sponsored by Gatorade. So we provide that. The guys buy all their own stuff, and they just keep it there in the cabinet. So, one guy might be on Garden of Life, one guy might be on True Nutrition,
Sure.
They just put all their protein there. So, I think you see more and more teams that are hiring a full-time nutritionist. We kind of have a part-time nutritionist at our place, and then someone who's on site kind of helps out with day-to-day meals and stuff. When we have meals, we don't have a full-time person on staff. It just depends on the team and how you want to run an organization wise. Sometimes the strength coaches do more of it. Sometimes they have a nutritional department, they have interns. It just depends on how they want to invest their money.
Which organization? I don't think this is a bad question, but you could tell me. I'm sure you can answer. But what organization did you work with that put the most emphasis into nutrition? Like what sticks out in your head, if any?
UCLA football by far.
Wow. What do they do? Can you talk about that?
What do we do?
No. What did UCLA do? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I was there, so what do we do? My boss Sal Alosi was, we basically, once the NCAA passed that rule, we separated, we used the bod pod to identify guys' body fat composition. We wanted you guys our guys at a certain level, if you're a big, mid, or a skill. And then based on what your reading was, we would provide pre-workout shakes, workout shakes that you would drink during the workout, and then post-workout recovery shakes, and we just worked the macros to, gain, lose, maintain, how we would go from there. And then we would work with different companies to provide the snacks, and I think he eventually got to the point where we were having, some of those catering companies that you can order food from. So I think Sunfair was the one in LA. They're all over. Kitch Fix is in Chicago. I'm sure there's a bunch in New York. We started to work with companies like that to bring in our snacks. And we just said, all right, this is what we want on our snack. We want a good lean, protein. We want, a carb. We want a green. And so guys started to eat healthier and healthier and healthier. And then we controlled the training table. We controlled the training table when we went on the road at the hotels. So these guys were getting quality food in more and more and more now that the NCAA passed that rule. And they passed the rule recently about the supplements. It used to be you could only give them a protein shake that only can no more than 20% of the calories could come from protein, or 30%. I can't remember what it was.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. I don't know what I thought. Protein is a drug or steroid. I don't know.
Yeah, there were studies that showed that protein actually made people better.
Yeah.
And so
I don't really like that. That had to start with someone. Like I can imagine. Who was it? It was like the Collegiate Players Union, or someone was just saying, protein. Yeah, that's too much protein. And these supplements, they're packed with protein, and we got to calm it down. Like, are they trying to get the athletes smaller and weaker? Is that
I don't know what it was.
What did you see from a performance? I mean, it may sound like a stupid question. Did you see a substantial improvement in not only their demeanor, but their energy levels, their recovery from just feeling like that they had access to good quality foods? Or was it something that, to be honest, you're like, listen, Don, it was a great luxury for them to have, but we couldn't really tell a difference on it. I'm curious.
Yeah. It's like someone asked me the question the other day. It's like, it depends. And if they already ate really good, then maybe they don't get much out of it, Right. And it depends on what it is. Your training's really bad or your diet's really bad, and you fix one of them, then all right, that's the answer. So I think that it helped us quite a bit on the recovery side. Guys are eating well. Guys are getting good quality nutrients in the body. You're putting better fuel in the body. That's better than them going out and eating McDonald's all the time. So
sure,
definitely it's a plus. But as far as like how much you want to slice it or how much gain it was, I mean, I don't know how much nutrition, if it was big, if it was little. I mean, Usain Bolt won gold medals eating chicken nuggets. So, I mean, some of these guys just perform. It doesn't matter. And then you have a soft tissue person work on their tissue, and like their tissue's great, or they eat like terrible, and we're like, oh, we need to eat really well for these things. And, and what you're seeing is not always adding up, So I think it was beneficial for us. I can't say, how much improved performance.
Yeah, sure. It's funny sometimes. Sometimes we add a good thing in thinking that it's going to automatically improve the situation. It just doesn't. That's what your story just reminded me of. I mean, I remember there was a long drive champion. I'm going to give you some of his stats, and it'll obviously, well, maybe people won't pick it up on because I won't give exact stats, but he, his ball speed, familiar with drive guys, his ball speed was up around 250 plus miles an hour. You get a fast guy in the PGA Tour like a Dustin Johnson. Dustin's swinging it, hitting the ball about 186. So you can see 250 to 186 ain't close, man. It's like a bicycle versus NASCAR, right? His swing speed was up around, I want to say 220, where a tour guy might be swinging it high at like 122. No, I'm sorry, not at 220. It was 50 something, where on tour the highest guy's like 122. So there's a big discrepancy. And he came to me and he says, I said, well, what that, like, how'd you get, like, you've been training your whole life? He goes, I was an athlete, but I wasn't a long drive guy. He told me the sport he was in. And I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense. Have you weight trained? And he goes, no. And I had to talk with Charlie Weingroff about it. And we were kind of discussing how, the weight training could potentially, who knows? Like, sometimes you could throw something good in. So he finds a coach in a different area than here. He didn't work with us. And the guy dives into it. And we just saw his numbers go like this. It just dropped, where he was almost like, well, I thought I would have improved it. And, was it the right training? Was it just that natural movement that he always incorporated from playing whatever rotational sport he played growing up that might have attributed to, was it the fact he was 6'5" and, built like a farm boy? Like, what was it? What was added in there that kind of messed him up? And, like you said, Usain Bolt was eating chicken nuggets. Doesn't mean I'm going to eat chicken nuggets or have my kids eat chicken nuggets, even though I love the taste of them. But, Usain's a freak. And we see Usain doing something, and immediately people just try and justify and say, all right, well, this is okay for me to have chicken nuggets once in a while. Like my grandma had a scotch every day for her entire life. Her and her 4 sisters lived between the ages of 96 and 105, all 5 of them.
Yeah,
all right.
Makes it all right for everybody.
Yeah, it makes it all right for everyone. They were eating pasta every day. But you look at the ingredients, you say, well, maybe that's what it was. There was no organic or non-organic back then. They were just eating good quality foods, and they lived a whole life of low stress and moderation. So a lot of us have to stop looking at one individual, at what that individual is doing. Tom Brady, fine. I mean, listen, probably a great guy, obviously exceptional at what he does. The stuff going around with his trainer, suddenly people are sending me articles like, can we incorporate this stuff in? And you're looking at some of the stuff and you're like you do some of the stuff in your warm up already. Like, this is, he's doing a reach back here. This is part or a banded walk, and to turn his glutes on, as they say. But people take that and they just run with it because, the elite is using it.
His thing is a hot topic with his trainer right now. And you look at what he does, and if you come from any background of any science or, anything, you're like, it's training wise, it's terrible. But you look at, all right, what does he do well? All right, he eats well, and he eats well consistently. He stays hydrated, and he gets soft tissue work. I mean,
he recovers very well. I mean, if you look at
Derek's been saying that for years. All right, eat well, get soft tissue work, and train. I mean, he does those 3 things well. But I mean, training wise, doesn't train well.
He still can't run or catch, but yeah,
terrible.
You said that, I didn't. You said that, I didn't. That's awesome. I would actually love to. I haven't looked at his full routine. I've looked at little bits and pieces of it, what people sent, and
training-wise, it's a lot of bands.
Yeah, I was unimpressed, but
good soft tissue work. He eats well, he hydrates well, so he does 3 things really well. So,
it goes a long way. And you know what? A lot of people out there, they don't do. I mean, soft tissue work is probably one of the most underutilized recovery tools that I wish. I mean, some of my clients here have all the money in the world, and if I had their type of dough, I honestly, you may think it's overboard, I'd probably be getting 30 minutes of manual therapy after every workout. I'd probably lay flat on the table, focus on breathing, and I'd have someone just kind of, whether it's use their hands or scrape or cup or call it whatever the hell that you want, but I would be using a recovery modality once a day. And I just don't understand. And is that overboard? Sure, it's probably overboard. I mean, most of my clients, if they did it once a week, I'd be thrilled. But they don't even want to do that. It's like, it's unbelievable. How many guys on your organization get soft tissue work done?
It's hard to say. Quite a few in season. We don't really have them around in the off season. Guys will fly in their own people, I was talking to Derek about this. He can probably expand upon it. But the problem with that is, like, have one guy will fly in an acupuncturist. He'll fly in a soft tissue guy, and he'll fly in an ART guy. Well, they don't know what the other guy's doing. And guy comes back to you, and he's worse off than what he was before, So that's an issue. And then you don't know how deep these guys are going and when and where based on your training. They don't know your training. They're just flying a guy in to just crank on him for, because they feel, I need to get work done. So they do it, without any real understanding. Derek could probably speak more on that.
Yeah. It would be nice if everything was centralized through the team and you had integration and, I know everybody that passes through your gym, Don, you have to some degree some control over what happens, right? And I don't think that happens with a lot of professional athletes. They they're looking for flavor of the week, flavor of the month, and oh, this guy's good, that guy, and then they bring him in, bring another guy in, but there's no coordination. And I think that's probably the biggest problem right now with these professional athletes. Like, their intention is good, they want to get better, but they don't. They almost need a performance director to handle that, like to say, like, okay, this is what you need now, and then this is what you need later, right? But that's not happening. It's just random right now.
You know, Dr. Greg Rose, Ryan, I don't know if you know. Do you know Greg over at Titleist Performance?
Titleist.
Yeah.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a brilliant guy, and he's one of my mentors early on. And I remember he came into my club 13 years ago, and he said, my only advice to you, bud, is, know what you're good at and surround yourself with a team. Because when I started rambling off then, 13 years ago, I was way dumber and way more ignorant than I am now. And it was one of those things where, at the time, you want to try and do it all. And I never, and I adapted quick. I realized that doing it all was really surrounding myself with a team, showing the individual that it's got to pass from one person to another. Even when we have clients that travel, I'm not expecting, am I going to tell you what to do? No, it's not about that. It's more about the handoff. It's more about having that discussion. Like if I was sending someone out to Vancouver to Derek, I'm not going to tell Derek how to train him. I'm going to give Derek advice on the things that I use that he or she really responded well to. And I'm going to try and give Derek as much history as possible to give Derek as much, as much success as possible when starting with that person. And there's just so much ego in this industry. And there's so many people who it's about them proving who can do it better than the next. And they're supplying a far inferior product than what they could be. And I don't know if you've had a lot of experience with that.
Yeah, the whole ego thing. I mean, it's big, a lot of politics and ego. And, I think there's more in the NFL than what I noticed. Maybe there was more in college. I didn't notice it. I noticed it more since I've been in the NFL. You see a lot of that on different teams. And you got buddies on all the other teams, a lot of other strength coaches. And it's kind of the same everywhere. Everyone's trying to promote themselves and look better. And, and then you got the private guys that are doing that too to get these big name clients in the off season, So that's just going on all over the place.
I got a question. Are you allowed to run us through like a typical week, like in season, and nothing proprietary I'm asking, but typically these guys are playing Sunday games, right? I mean, Sundays once in a while, Monday game, but it should seem pretty set in stone what the weeks are going to look like for these guys. So they're getting beat up, say on a Sunday, the majority of the time. Monday, is it an off day? Are they expected to come in and meet with the trainers on Monday, Tuesday? Like, is there a layout on how that looks? I know there is, but I'm just curious on yours.
Yeah, there's always every coach has his 7-day, template, and whatever the game is, you just work back from the game. It's a Monday game. I mean, you add in a day over the Thursday game, then you got to cut out some stuff in the middle. But a typical week, some coaches go Monday and off day. Some coaches go Tuesday and off day. It just depends on your head coach. They're always treatment is always required or mandatory. Like we got mandatory treatment Monday for all injured guys. You have to be in by X time. Your trainer says that. So the treatment's always mandatory in season. So that's usually never an issue. The off day, most places I know on the off day, they're open. The weight room is open for guys to come in and want to get their lift in. They can get their lift in there, and then they'll start the week slow and kind of ramp it up. And then they'll usually have a walkthrough the day before the game, travel, or if it's home, go to the hotel, and then you play Sunday. That's usually how it goes. Most teams lift twice a week. Sometimes go 3. Some teams do. That's pretty typical standard.
And what's a typical, and I know it's going to adjust, but you have a typical template that you guys created. What does that look like?
For us, I mess this up in my brain here. Monday's our off day. Mm-hmm. We're in there. Guys can come in and get ahead and get a lift in. Tuesday we're in. We just digest the film, and then the team lifts on Tuesday. So everybody comes in and lifts. There's no practice that day. They'll watch film and walk through. All right, Wednesday is really the first practice, and we split it up. Bigs lift on Wednesday. Skills lift on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And that's really it, so you practice Wednesday, Thursday, you have practice Friday, walk through Saturday, game Sunday, and repeat.
Right. Awesome.
Do you
awesome.
find? Do you
Sorry,
find? Do you find there's guys that get after it in season? Like during
You stole my question. You stole my question.
Sorry,
I love it. Take it though. I talk more than you. Take it.
I was like the mind meld thing. I was channeling you.
I love it.
I was talking to the Boston Celtics the other week, and that was the big thing. Was like, yeah, we can get guys to work out, but they just don't have the intensity a lot of the time, right? And I understand they have a lot of games, but do you find that that's pushing them? Do you find that that's a difficult thing to get them to push with a little intensity, even though maybe the volume's not high?
It's difficult if they haven't done it and if they don't believe in it, and that's not your culture as a team. If you would kind of establish that in the off season, and if you do that in the OTAs, so like, hey, I can still do this and hit an intensity that's worthwhile for me, and practice and play well and feel well, then they'll be more likely to do it. Every team's always got like their guys, their weight room guys, and we have about 4 or 5 of those guys that train hard all year. Hard all year. Some guys play more reps than other guys, but they train hard all year and they buy into the weight room. And then you got your third of the guys that don't do hardly anything, and then you got kind of everyone in the middle. So it's always like the rule of thirds. You get more guys on the top that are training this way. You can manipulate the guys in the middle to go this way as opposed to the other way.
Any correlations to performance or injury?
Well, all our weight room guys are all strong guys. Those guys haven't been hurt since I've been here. One guy had a little back issue.
Okay.
Other than that, stronger guys don't get hurt. I mean, it's just, you look at the research, it's like, all right, stronger people live longer. Stronger people don't get hurt as much. I mean, I don't know what it is, but something, Yeah, I think you talk about it's handling a stimulus. This is to the systemic, it's organism stimulus. It's just like, all right, I'm alive. I'm doing something. It's heavy. I'm strong. Nervous system's going. Tissues responding. Hormones are responding. You get that. I think that's the argument you should have with these guys in season of why you should train that way at a lower volume as opposed to doing lighter weights at a higher volume. Well, metabolically in season, I would argue that that's worse to train that way for you, because you're just kind of dumping the water out of the cup, so to speak. Metabolically, you're losing more energy doing it that way, even though you think you're doing better for yourself, doing lighter weights, more volume of stuff. So
I gotta ask one fun question here because I gotta ask it once. Who's the biggest beast in the weight room on your team? Or are you not allowed to answer that? And if you can't answer it, because I got people asking me this crap all the time, who's the strongest celeb you work with? And I'm like, I'm not answering that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, like, what do you define?
You'd say pound for pound. Well, you know what? Like, who just impresses you the most in there? Who's coming in with grit? Who's moving weight? Who's really grinding it out?
Well, I mean, it's like, all right, there's like, all right, there's guys going to be good benchers, guys good cleaner, good squatter. We got a receiver from Oregon who's really little. And he pound for pound, I mean, he is strong squat. I mean, he squats like almost 3 times his body weight. I think he was in season, he was squatting like 2.5 times his body weight, like week 12, 13 in season,
Jesus.
Moving well. And he didn't really lift. He's never really a lifter ever. Didn't train a ton in college. Very fast, very explosive. Just kind of has it, and then that's something to talk to Derek all the time about. It's like, all right, this guy's never trained, and he's just, you get him to do something, all right, he displays to you this tremendous strength, this max strength. It's like, all right, do we need to keep pushing that to make him a better athlete? I don't know, like.
That's a great question.
Other things that he probably needs to do, and that's
right.
Derek talks a lot about that in his talks, So.
Well, even Don was telling me one of the guys, was it Dave Harbour? You were pushing him and like, hey, he could lift more, but should I? Isn't that true?
I don't know, Ryan, if you saw the TV show Stranger Things.
I'm not much of a TV guy.
Yeah, me neither. Don't worry about it. Well, this guy, he was in one of the Super Bowl commercials. Super Bowl had this hilarious commercial, and he was he kind of stole the show. But Dave came into me, and he was a cigarette smoking cop in this TV show called Stranger Things. So he had to always kind of be, this out of shape. But I saw the guy come in. I met him for the first time. He's 6'4". He's 250 pounds. So you look at this guy, he's holding his weight pretty good. You're like, shit, all right, whatever. And I remember we started with him. His whole thing was his back. His back was giving him problems. Charlie checked him out. We kind of did our homework. We brought him in one day. You know, we're doing some kettlebell deadlifts, 24 kilos. That was it, right? We were just kind of like just babying him a little bit in the beginning. But then we started seeing some progress. Well, his last day, he wanted to lean on it. We had him doing barbell deadlifts throughout the program. It was 9 weeks. And I think on the last day, he pulled 375 for a clean single, which off the floor for someone who never deadlifted 9 weeks later, I think is pretty good. But we could have pushed it a lot more. And he's like, come on, let's go up. And I'm like, you're done. Like, let's move on. Like, I'm not sending you off to Bulgaria to shoot this TV show right now and have you blow your back out. But it's just, you know, he had some great success with pushing it, but training smart. That was my Dave Harbour story. But
Nice.
But that must be interesting because, I don't know, does he have an athletic background? Did he play sports or? No. Okay, but people like that, I'm like, well, let's see what this guy can do, right? Like, you never know, right?
Well, now he's off season, and now we're starting to kind of, you know, he's going to start getting back in with me a little bit, and we're going to start playing around with it. Now we can take a little bit of a different approach, but at the end of the day, I just don't see how necessary it is for me to push someone so hard that could cause more risk than reward. It's like, what's the point? Like someone like myself, where I know my body, I get it, but someone like that, you can really screw up what they're trying to do professionally. So, Ryan, I mean, if someone wants to learn more about you, where are they gonna find you? I mean, are you big on social media?
No, I don't exist, man.
Good for you, man. Congratulations.
I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter.
But they can keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yeah, I mean, they fortunately they put your email on there, so anybody in the general public can send you an email. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
All right.
So yeah, email's on a website. You know, email. I get pretty good about getting back to people on email there. So
you're on Instagram too, right?
I'm on Instagram. It's I don't add anybody unless I know you. You know, I think I have like 60 friends on there, and
I'm gonna send them to the real Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan's
Instagram is Van City Reynolds. What's that?
I get a lot of foreign people like trying to add me on stuff. I think they just see the name because my picture is like it's the back of me. Like, oh, Ryan Reynolds, like bunch of people from Russia.
Well,
you know?
I got some ideas for you. When you want to build a social following for one day, we can have some fun with it. I'm sure we'll get you to 1 million followers in about a week. Derek knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh my God. This is Ryan's brother, Ryan Reynolds.
His parents are creative.
It's like George Foreman. Maybe his 4 boys, George. But listen, man, it's been a real pleasure. It's always a pleasure for Derek and I to speak to someone, especially me. I mean, you know, to get exposure to someone in the strength and conditioning world in the NFL, for me, special. And I know for a lot of our listeners, they're really going to enjoy kind of hearing some of the insights. And hopefully you guys are going to have a great season. I'm sure your players are going to be resilient. And if you're ever up in the New York area, we'd love you to come by again and meet in person.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Derek, you're the man. I'll call you later on.
Sounds good. Thanks, son.
Thanks, guys.